What's up, noobs, and welcome to Noob Perspective. Today we're starting a new video series on a Python application. The application is going to have a bunch of random functions in it that don't really serve any other purpose other than to practice Python and to learn Python if you're new, if you are more of a noob than I am. This application is going to have several functions in it, and I just want to get started on a few of them, and I do want to get better at them as I go, get more professional. So I'll go from noob to acceptable. I'm going to be starting out with just a few functions, and then we'll move on from there to some error checking. So to start, we won't do any error checking. And after the error checking, will probably be second video, and we'll add more functions there. And then from there, we'll probably add a GUI so we can actually interact with some buttons and make it look more professional. Let's get started with the first part. We're just going to make an encouragement function to start, so that if you get sad along the way, you can cheer yourself up. If you're new to Python, I hope this is a good tutorial for you from a noob's perspective. We've all been there. I have been there more recently than maybe a lot of other people. I hope this is helpful to everyone, or funny to those that think I suck and don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to make a new project, and I'm going to give it a name. So this hash symbol, it won't run any code, so I could type in some code. And when I run it, it's not going to do anything because of that hash symbol at the start. That is different from a comment. I don't know what makes it different though, to be honest. If you know, let me know. Alright, so that kind of describes the purpose of the program. You notice I put in encryption. I wanted to try it. It didn't seem too hard. I took a discrete math class and learned a little bit about it. You just basically can use the modulus, whatever you call that. What would you call that?
An operator. You got multiplication, division, modulus fits in there, all those kind of things.
So we'll try some encryption, and then I'm going to do a Fibonacci sequence. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned in the next video so you can see. And we'll do a GUI eventually as well. So I'm going to start off with my first function. If you are very new to Python, don't know what I'm doing here, I'm just making a function, and I'm defining it. So I'm using the keyword def to define a function called encouragement. You can name that whatever you want. Encouragement, I want to be able to tell the user that it's going to be okay. It'll be okay. BB. Okay. Just get this file saved. That took way longer than it needed to. So far we've got it to print, hang in there, it'll be okay, BB. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to use F5 to run it. If you'll notice, nothing's there. I ran it and there's nothing. That's because I haven't called the function. All I've done is told Python that there is a new function called encourage, and when it's called, display this on the screen. So I'm going to call it with the parentheses, hang in there, it'll be okay, BB. If I just type in the name without the parentheses, it tells me that the function is at this memory location. So without the parentheses, that's just the name of the function and where it's located in memory, and not actually calling the function. I feel like it's kind of annoying when people notice that you're down and then they just come and say, hang in there, it'll be okay, BB, especially if you don't know them. So I'm thinking that maybe we'll want to get some user input. I think it'd be pretty rad if you could ask for some encouragement. To do that, I'm going to create a variable to store an answer. Basically, it's going to say, do you want to be encouraged? Or are you sad? You know, something like that. Let's do that. Answer equals, we're going to use the input function.
Are you sad?
And we'll go like that. There's got to be a better way than just typing my function every time. Yes, I'm sad. Hey, it worked. But it worked for a certain reason. I said no and it still worked. It's because all I've done is created a variable to say, hey, stop the, take control of the window and wait for the user to type something. Display this and wait for the user to type something. And then when I type something, it assigns it to answer, and then it reads the next line to print this. So it's not actually taking into consideration that I said yes or no. So I'm going to create an if-else statement. Before I do that, before I forget, I'm just going to call that right there. so that when I launch the program, it just does that to start. Yes, I want to kill it. So there's my answer. I'm going to make an if statement. If answer is, go with yes, lowercase. Then I want you to print that out. Only if. No, it didn't do anything. Are you sad, BB? Yes. I'm so sad. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I gotta spell it right. Are you sad, BB? Yes, I am so sad. What the? Rude. Okay. Alright, so we know that works. We're gonna define our, let's do a random number generator. This one's actually really easy because most of the heavy lifting is gonna be done by a Python module that already exists called random. Rando numbo. Before I can get it to work, I'm gonna need to import.
I could create my own function to generate a random number. That's pretty complicated, or at least I think it is. I don't know, maybe it's not. I'm not even gonna try that. I assume it's a lot of work to make a function that spits out a random number. Don't know how that would begin to do that. So maybe in another series I'll try doing stuff like that.
But it's already been done, so I'm just going to import it. It's actually a module called random. So I can use the import keyword and then the name of what I want to import. Okay. So now I can use that random, and I believe, so if we're going to use it, I'm going to have to type random dot to access any of its functions. And this gives us a list of the functions available. The one I'm interested in is randint. So this actually takes a couple arguments. I think it only takes two, up to two. You can do between 1 and whatever number. So between whatever the first number is and whatever the second number is. Let's do a random number between 1 and 100. We're going to call it so I don't have to type it in every time. And I'm going to get rid of this encourage because I don't want to see the encourage right now. I'm actually feeling pretty good. So I ran it, and it definitely ran rando numbo, but nothing happened. That is because all this is doing is generating a random number. It's not displaying it. It's not assigning it to anything. I'm just going to call this num. We're going to store it in num and then print num. I can't type. Hey, 44. And if we run it again, 37, 65. It looks pretty random to me. See if it'll repeat in a row. I think I've seen some repeats, just not repeats in a row. Okay, you get the idea. That one's working. I want to make this a little more complex. So for the random number, what I want to do is I want to get input from the user so that the user can say, here's the starting number and here's the ending number. I want a random number between those two. So how are we going to do that? We're going to use input. I'm just going to call them num1 and num2.
Input start number. Num2 equals input end number.
Somehow I have to pass these two variables into here.
Num1, num2, and print num. Could it be that easy?
Let's do between 10 and 20. Oh, whoops, sorry. 10 and 20. Can only concatenate a string, but not int. This one. So if you don't know what concatenation is, it's pretty much just adding strings together. Oh, line 24. So we're looking. Okay, I see what the problem is. So it's basically saying rand int. Int. That should have told me right away. It's basically saying I need an integer. Again, if you're new to Python.
An integer is a whole number. And it could be positive or negative, just a whole number, no decimal. If you were to, actually I'll show you what that does. Just make these integers first.
And make sure it works. Hey, it worked. Okay, let me show you what I was talking about. So we have a number, 8 for example. That is an integer. 8 point anything is not an integer. That would be a floating point decimal number. So if I wanted to take 8.12 and turn it into an integer, I would just put it inside this integer function and it drops the decimal. I don't know if that's actually what it's doing on the back end, is just chopping it off, or if there's some process of converting it from a float to an int. Now notice that if 8.0 is 8.0 and not 8 when I type in 8.0. That is because I have created a float. So let's say I wanted to float a number. So I want a floating point number here. All it's going to do is just add a 0. So now you've got a float. That'll be important for a tip calculator. But I'm not going to get too far in the tip calculator. Okay, so rando numbo is working. Get rid of that. Okay, so I'm just going to start the tip calculator. I'm not going to finish in this one. Don't want it to go on too long. I'm going to call it tipper. So here's the idea for this tip calculator. Say you're at a restaurant and you don't know how much you want to tip your waiter or waitress. So traditionally people would tip between 10 and 20%, I would say, is a fairly common tip. We're going to have 3 tip choices, 10%, 15%, or 20%, but we're going to do it based on service. So we're going to get 2 things from the user. We're going to get their bill amount, and then we're going to get a response from them indicating how well their waitress or waiter did. And we're going to measure it in poor, average, or excellent, or 1, 2, 3. We'll probably do 1, 2, 3. That's probably easier. So first thing we're going to need to get is the bill, and as we all know, US dollars, we use decimal when we're talking about money. So bill, to get the input, type in input, how much was dinner? Okay. Also, we need a particular kind of number. If they just type in, we want a floating point. We want to work with a float because we're going to do a decimal. And then we're going to have another one called service. This is how we're going to find out how well the waiter or waitress did. So what we can expect from the user is some input. How well was service? Now that's pretty open-ended. So we don't know what kind of input we're going to be getting from them. They could say crappy, it was terrible, 2 stars out of 5 or 10. So let's decide what we're going to do. I could do it based on the word they type in. For example, poor, average, excellent. The only problem with that is it would be case sensitive. So if they typed lowercase or uppercase on the first letter, that's going to matter, which means I'll have to have a way to an if statement to check for upper and lowercase. Or I can just use an integer and have them say service was poor, it was a 1, it was average, is a 2, or it was excellent, it's a 3. So that's actually going to be easier. So we're going to have an integer. I want them to give me a number. And that number can be
1 equals poor, 2 equals average, and 3 equals excellent.
That's all I'm going to do on this one. Except I feel like I forgot a parentheses. Yeah. Now to test it. Okay, how much was dinner? It was $10.35. My service was average, about what you would expect. Okay, there we go. I've got my values in. So that's all we're going to cover for today. On the next one, we're going to finish out the tip calculator and then probably add some error checking. I don't know how long it'll take me to finish the tip calculator, but yeah, we'll probably do some error checking. So I'm not going to let someone type in letters when I'm expecting numbers for how much their bill was. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that if you are a noob like me, that this was helpful for you and will help you polish up your Python skills. And if you have any questions at all about anything that I've done, let me know, and I will try to respond to you. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.